This man is one of the men whose wives had an affair with Baltasar in Gonga. His wife lied to her husband, saying she got a job at Baltasar's office, but in reality, she was going to see Baltasar to have an affair.
I remember when she told me about her new job in the National Financial Investigation Agency. We were sitting at our small apartment in Malabo, and I was surprised by her excitement. She spoke about it with such confidence, as if this was her big break. She had been offered a position that seemed important, a chance to work on cases that involved high-level corruption, money laundering, and political finance. She told me she would be working with top government officials, uncovering financial crimes across the country. It sounded like a big deal, too big to question. We had only been in Equatorial Guinea for a year at that point. She had been working in various jobs, slowly climbing up the ladder, but this sounded like the kind of opportunity that could change everything for her. She was enthusiastic about it, and I couldn't help but be proud of her until things started to feel off. Her trips to the capital, Malabo, became more frequent. She'd come back late, often tired, always vague about her assignments. She told me about meetings with high-profile people, but she never went into specifics. It wasn't unusual for her to keep things close to the chest, but over time it felt like she was pulling away more and more. One evening, she came home from a trip and didn't seem like herself. Her usual spark was gone, replaced by an unsettling quietness. She'd usually be eager to share stories of her work, but this time she barely mentioned anything about her meetings. When I asked about her interactions with the people she worked with, she brushed me off. She had that far-off look in her eyes again, like she was somewhere else, somewhere I couldn't reach. It wasn't long after that I overheard her on the phone. She was speaking in low, hushed tones, trying to keep the conversation private. But I caught a name. A name I recognized from the local news, Baltasar in Ganga, the head of the National Financial Investigation Agency. She was speaking to him. I didn't think much of it at first. After all, she was working there, so it made sense that she'd speak to him. But the tone of her voice, it didn't sit right with me. There was something more to it. I tried to push the feeling aside, but the more I thought about it, the more suspicious I became. She never mentioned his name before, not once. And now, out of nowhere, she was talking to him like they were close. Like they had a history. Then came the day she went on another trip to Malabo, and this time, something felt different. She was acting strange leading up to it, nervous, almost jittery, avoiding eye contact, and refusing to tell me the details of her meetings. Her usual confidence seemed to be slipping away. When she came back, I noticed more signs that didn't add up. The way she looked at her phone, the way she was always texting in secret. Her clothes smelled different, not in a bad way, but in a way I didn't recognize. It wasn't a perfume I'd ever smelled before. I needed answers, so I started paying closer attention. One evening, after she had left for a meeting, I went into her bag. I had to know what was really going on. And that's when I found it, the hotel bill tucked at the bottom of her bag. The name of the hotel. It was one of the most exclusive ones in Malabo. The same one where Baltasar in Ganga was known to stay whenever he was in the city. My heart sank as the truth hit me. She hadn't been there for work. She had gone there to meet him. To be with him. My mind raced, but the evidence was clear. The lie she had told me, the stories about work, none of it was real. It was all just a cover-up for something much darker. And I was still here, living in Equatorial Guinea, in the very place where she had been lying to me. It felt like the walls were closing in. I didn't know what to do with the information I had. I didn't know if I was ready to face the truth of what had been happening right under my nose. But now, everything had changed. I spent the next few days in a haze, replaying the events in my mind over and over again. I couldn't understand how I had missed it, how I had been blind to what was happening right in front of me. The image of her, so eager to impress, so proud of her new job, it all seemed like a facade now. How had she managed to pull this off without me noticing? How had she managed to weave such a complex web of lies? It gnawed at me. The evidence was undeniable, but I still found myself questioning it. Was there a chance that I was wrong? That perhaps the hotel bill was some sort of mistake? Or had I just uncovered something much darker than I was ready to face? The next few days were tense. She came home late, as usual, but there was a coldness in the air now, a distance between us that hadn't been there before. She could sense something was off, I could tell. Her nervousness grew, her attempts to seem normal increasingly forced. But I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. I needed answers. And I needed them fast. One evening, after a particularly long day, she came home earlier than usual. She seemed distracted, fumbling with her keys. Her eyes darted around, and I could see her mind racing. She was hiding something. And I couldn't take it anymore. Who's Baltasar in Ganga? I asked, my voice surprisingly calm. I had no idea where my words would take us, but it felt like the only way forward. She froze. Her face drained of color, and for a moment it seemed like she wasn't sure how to respond. Then her lips tightened into a thin line. What are you talking about? I didn't flinch. I know you've been seeing him. I found the hotel bill. Her eyes widened in disbelief, then quickly narrowed. She knew she couldn't talk her way out of it now. It's not what you think, she said, her voice shaky. It's not like that. Then what is it like? I demanded. What's really going on here? You've been lying to me about everything, your job, your meetings, your trips. What have you been doing with him? She sighed, looking away. I never wanted you to find out this way. The words hung in the air, the bitter taste settling in my mouth. I didn't want to hear the truth, but I needed to. I'm listening, I said, trying to steady my breathing, though my heart was hammering in my chest. She took a deep breath before speaking. Baltasar is not just the head of the agency. He's been using me, manipulating me. I got too close to him. It started as work, at first. We were collaborating on cases, but then it went beyond that. I got in too deep, and I didn't know how to pull back. He's involved in things I shouldn't have known about. But I'm stuck now. If I walk away, if I tell anyone what I know, I'm as good as dead. I felt my stomach churn. What things? What has he made you do? Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time in months, I saw the vulnerability in her that I had been missing. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I thought I was making a difference, helping uncover corruption. But I was just a pawn. A tool for something much bigger. There's money laundering, illicit deals, so many things I can't even wrap my head around. I've been helping cover it all up, all for the sake of keeping my position. For the sake of my career. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice cracking. Why didn't you trust me? She shook her head, tears slipping down her face. I was afraid. Afraid of what would happen to us, to me, to you. I didn't want to drag you into this. I thought I could handle it. But now, it's too late. I'm in too deep. Her words hung in the air like a heavy fog. I didn't know what to think, what to feel. Part of me wanted to walk away, to leave everything behind. But I couldn't. I couldn't leave her, not like this. What are we supposed to do now? I asked, the weight of everything crashing down on me. She looked at me, a mixture of fear and desperation in her eyes. I don't know. But I can't do this alone anymore. I need you to help me. I need you to understand that I never wanted to hurt you. But now we are both trapped. If we stay here, we are both at risk. I don't know who to trust anymore. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt my heart sink into my stomach. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about survival. About navigating a dangerous web of corruption, lies, and deceit. And the walls were closing in faster than I ever could have imagined. The more we spoke, the more I realized how much I admired her, not just her beauty, but her wit, her warmth, and the way she seemed to understand the world in a way that felt refreshing. And before I could even fully process it, the night had turned into a beautiful memory, sipping wine, talking about our hopes, our dreams, and the little things that make life so special. We talked until the restaurant started to close, and I could feel a spark, something I hadn't expected but couldn't deny. As I walked her to the door, I asked if she'd like to meet again sometime. "I'd like that," she said, her voice soft, but the way her eyes lit up told me everything I needed to know. That was how it all began, the first spark, the moment everything shifted. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it felt like one of those moments in life when everything falls into place. I knew, deep down, that this was the start of something important. From then on, we met often. Slowly, the feelings grew, soft and steady. We shared more meals, more walks in the park, more quiet moments where time seemed to disappear. And eventually, I found myself falling in love with her, not just for the person she was, but for the way she made everything feel real. Our love wasn't rushed, it was like we were both savoring the journey, knowing that this was something worth waiting for. It was one of those ordinary evenings that turned into something extraordinary, and I didn't even know it yet. I had just moved to a new city, and I was trying to settle in. I decided to grab dinner at a small, cozy restaurant tucked away on a quiet street. The place had an inviting vibe with soft lighting, and the sound of classical music played in the background. It wasn't anything special at first glance, but it felt like the right place to unwind after a long week. I sat at a table for two near the window, idly looking out as the city began to light up. As the waiter brought over my menu, I noticed her. She was sitting at a table nearby, alone, looking a little lost in thought as she stirred her drink absent-mindedly. There was something about her that caught my attention, not just her appearance, though she was undeniably beautiful, but the way she seemed so immersed in the world around her, as if she was savoring every little detail. Her smile was quiet but genuine, the kind that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. I didn't plan on doing anything about it. After all, I wasn't the type to approach someone I didn't know. But something about that night felt different, like the universe was nudging me to take a chance. I kept catching glimpses of her out of the corner of my eye, and I could feel the pull. Eventually, I stood up to get something from the bar, and our eyes met for just a brief second. There was no awkwardness in her gaze, only curiosity. And then she did something I didn't expect. She smiled. A real, inviting smile. It was as if she was waiting for me to make the next move. I took a deep breath, walked over, and asked if she would mind if I joined her. To my surprise, she welcomed me with an ease that made it feel like we'd known each other forever. We started talking about small things, travel, books, the city, and before I knew it, the conversation flowed naturally, without any of the usual stilted pauses. It felt like we were both opening up to each other, finding common ground, and laughing at things that no one else would have found funny. The months passed, and everything just seemed to fall into place. We traveled together, exploring new cities, new places, and creating memories that we would hold on to forever. We spent weekends cooking dinner together in her kitchen, and those were the moments I cherished the most. Nothing extravagant, just us sharing our time and our lives. As we grew closer, I couldn't help but think about the future. I knew that I couldn't imagine my life without her, and I started planning a way to make sure she knew just how much she meant to me. It wasn't a rush, but it was something I felt in my heart every day. The proposal came one autumn evening. We had gone to the same cafe by the lake where we had had that heart-to-heart months earlier. The golden leaves from the trees had started to fall, and the air was crisp, signaling the change of seasons. We were walking along the lakeside path, the sun just beginning to set, casting a warm glow over everything. I stopped her in the middle of the path, taking both of her hands in mine. She looked up at me, her expression soft, like she already knew what was coming. "I've loved every moment with you," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "I can't imagine my life without you. You make everything better, just by being you." Her eyes welled up with tears, and I could see the same love reflected in her gaze. It felt like time had stopped. Then, I dropped down on one knee, the world around us fading as I asked, "Will you marry me?" She nodded, her smile growing. I'm really excited. It's a big deal. I'll be working on some important cases, investigating corruption and financial fraud, and I'll be working with some top officials in the government. I could tell that she was trying to gauge my reaction to see if I shared her enthusiasm. But the more she spoke about it, the more I realized just how serious and demanding this job would be. And what does that mean for you, for us? I asked, my voice laced with a hint of concern. I wanted to support her, but I couldn't help wondering how this job would change things. She had worked hard for everything, but this felt like a shift, something bigger than we'd ever experienced. She paused for a moment, then gave me a reassuring look. It's going to be challenging, but I think it's the right step for me. I'll be busy, of course. But I want you to know that no matter what, we'll make it work. This is important for my career, and I want you to be part of this journey with me. I smiled at her, squeezing her hand. Of course. We'll make it work. This is your dream, and I'll be here, supporting you all the way. We've been through so much already, I know we can handle whatever comes next. Her eyes softened as she leaned in, kissing me on the cheek. Thank you. I was so nervous to tell you, but I just knew you'd understand. As the night went on, we talked about what this new job would mean for her, how it would challenge her, how it would push her to new heights. I could see how much she believed in this opportunity, how much it aligned with her passion for justice and making a difference in the world. I was proud of her, but there was a part of me that felt anxious about how her new role might change things. But we had always navigated challenges together, and I knew that this was just another chapter in our story. From that moment, as she embarked on her new career path, I could see a different side of her, more confident, more driven. She was determined, and I admired her more than ever. But little did I know that this new job would change everything between us in ways I hadn't yet imagined. In the weeks that followed, as my wife dove deeper into her new role at the National Financial Investigation Agency, I couldn't shake a nagging feeling. At first, I thought it was just the pressure of her new job weighing on her. She had been more distant, working late nights and often coming home exhausted, barely able to say more than a few words before retreating to her office to catch up on emails or paperwork. I told myself it was just the nature of her work, challenging, demanding, requiring all of her attention. But then things began to change in ways I couldn't ignore. There were moments, subtle at first, that felt out of place. She became more secretive with her phone, keeping it face down on the table whenever we were together, often excusing herself to take calls in another room. I'd heard her voice on the phone a few times, but there was something different in her tone, a softness I hadn't heard before, especially when she spoke to him. Baltasar in Ganga, the head of the agency, had become a recurring name in our conversations, though she rarely mentioned him directly. The few times she did, it was always in passing, a casual reference to meetings or reports. But over time, I began to notice a change in her demeanor whenever his name came up. There was a warmth in her voice, an unspoken connection that made my heart ache with uncertainty. I wasn't naive. I began to do what I had avoided. I started to look more closely, piecing together the fragments of her actions and words. One evening, when she had stepped out for another late meeting, I sat down at her desk and opened her laptop. The first time I'd done something like that, I felt guilty, as though I was betraying her trust, but I couldn't stop myself. There were documents on the screen, files labeled with case numbers, financial reports, but one name stood out, repeated several times, Baltasar in Ganga. Curious, I began to sift through the files. It was hard to make sense of all the jargon, the complex financial terms, but one document stood out, a draft of a report that was clearly written by her, but there was something off about the tone. It didn't sound like the careful, professional writing I was used to from her. It sounded more personal, almost as though she were writing a message to someone directly. And as I read through it, a chilling realization washed over me. The report wasn't just about a financial case, it was about them. It detailed a collaboration between my wife and Baltasar on a high-profile investigation, but there were comments embedded in the margins, things that were never meant to be seen by anyone else. I can't wait to see you later. You're doing great work. There were other comments too, ones that made my stomach turn, but the most damning one was the last line, "We'll handle this together, just like we've always done." My heart dropped as I closed the laptop. I felt sick, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. My mind raced with questions. How long had this been going on? Had she been seeing him behind my back? Was her excitement about the job not about the work, but about him? It all started to make sense, the long hours, the strange trips to Malabo, the way she had withdrawn from me. She hadn't been consumed by her career, she had been consumed by him. The connection between them, the secrecy, the little comments and looks, everything pointed to one devastating truth. She had been faking her position at the agency, not because she cared about the job itself, but because it gave her an excuse to be with him. The cases they worked on together were just a cover for their growing relationship. I was crushed. I felt like everything I had believed in had been a lie. The woman I thought I knew, my partner, my love, had been living a double life. The very agency that was supposed to fight corruption and uphold justice had been the backdrop for her betrayal. The truth was hard to face, but there it was, staring me in the face. She had fallen in love with Baltasar. And for months, she had been pretending, not just to me, but to herself, that this was all part of her professional growth. When she came home that night, I didn't confront her immediately. I couldn't find the words. The anger, the hurt, the disbelief, it was all tangled inside me, and I needed time to figure it out. But that night, as I watched her prepare for another meeting, I couldn't help but feel that the person I loved was slipping away from me, and I was powerless to stop it. The next few days were a blur of tension and silence. We didn't speak about what I had discovered. She acted as though everything was normal, as if nothing had changed, but I could see the guilt in her eyes, even though she refused to acknowledge it. I wasn't sure how much longer I could pretend that things were fine. And then came the day when the truth would come crashing down. The truth had already set its claws into my heart, but it wasn't until the video surfaced that everything broke apart completely. I had my suspicions, but seeing the proof was like watching my entire world unravel. It was a Friday evening when the first video appeared online, sent to me through a private message. The sender was anonymous, but the footage was unmistakable. I watched in frozen disbelief as the video played out on my phone. It was filmed in a hotel room, a luxurious, intimate setting. The lighting was soft, casting long shadows across the walls. The camera zoomed in on her face, but it was the man beside her, Baltasar, who stood out more. The look they shared, the way she smiled at him, it wasn't just a professional bond. It was something deeper, something far more personal. In the video, they were close, whispering to each other, exchanging a kiss. The chemistry between them was undeniable. I couldn't breathe as I watched it again and again, each replay feeling like a punch to the gut. The more I watched, the clearer it became she wasn't just faking her job to cover up their affair. She was deeply involved with him, and all this time, I had been blind to it. The late meetings, the mysterious trips to Malabo, the secrecy, it was all a mask for their relationship. Another video surfaced the next day. This one was shot from a different angle, but it was unmistakably them again. This time, they were in a restaurant, laughing, holding hands under the table. They were in a bubble, and I was on the outside, a spectator to something I couldn't control. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I knew what I had to do. My heart was shattered, but I had to confront her. I couldn't live with the lies any longer. When she came home that night, I was waiting for her in the living room. The house was quiet, the weight of everything between us hanging in the air. She walked in, her eyes lighting up when she saw me. But the moment she saw the look on my face, her smile faltered. "Hey, what's wrong?" she asked, putting her bag down, her voice laced with concern. I didn't answer right away. I didn't know how to begin, but I knew there was no turning back. I pulled my phone out and held it up to her. "You want to explain this?" Her eyes widened as she saw the videos. For a moment, she looked like a deer caught in headlights, her face going pale. She didn't speak, didn't try to deny it. I can explain, she said, her voice shaky, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. Explain. How do you explain that? I was shaking, but I wasn't sure if it was out of anger or pain. How long, Rema? How long has this been going on? Were you ever really working for the agency, or was it just a cover-up? Was it all just about him? She opened her mouth to say something, but the words got caught in her throat. She looked at me, her eyes welling up with tears. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never wanted to hurt you. Baltasar, he and I, it just happened. Just happened. I spat, my voice breaking. You're telling me that this wasn't planned. You didn't intentionally deceive me, lying about your job, about everything. Do you think I'm that stupid? No, she whispered, her voice trembling. I never meant for it to get so complicated. At first, it was just about the job, but then I started to feel something for him. And I couldn't stop it. The words stung like daggers. I had known something was wrong, but to hear it confirmed, that was unbearable. I stood up, pacing the room, trying to make sense of everything. And what about me? Where was I in all of this? Did I mean anything to you? Or was I just a convenience while you were waiting for the right moment to be with him? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she collapsed onto the couch, her face buried in her hands as sobs racked her body. I'm so sorry, she said through her tears. I never meant to fall for him. I never wanted to hurt you. I watched her, my mind racing with a flood of emotions, betrayal, heartbreak, confusion. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. The hurt was too deep. I had loved her, and she had betrayed me in the worst way imaginable. So what now? I asked, my voice low and cold. What happens now, Emma? Are you going to leave me for him? Is that what you want? She looked up at me, her eyes filled with regret. No, I don't want to leave you. I never wanted this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you like this. But I know I've already done that. There was a silence that stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said quietly, the words feeling like a weight on my chest. I don't even know if I can look at you the same way again. She nodded, her face twisted with pain. I understand. I ruined everything. And I don't know how to fix it. I didn't know if I wanted to fix it, neither. I didn't know if it could ever be fixed. I had loved her so deeply, and now everything felt like a lie. That night, I went to bed with the crushing weight of betrayal pressing on me, my heart aching in ways I couldn't describe. The woman I thought I knew had turned into someone else. And somewhere out there, Baltasar was part of that new reality. The next few days were a blur of silence and avoidance. I couldn't bring myself to have another conversation with her, not yet. The anger was still too raw. I had questioned so many questions, but I wasn't sure I wanted the answers. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about the trust we'd built, the life we'd shared, and the devastating realization that everything I'd known was now crumbling around me. And as I looked at her, I didn't know if we could ever rebuild what had been broken. The damage had been done. And the question now was whether I could ever find a way to move forward, with or without her.